Welcome to the Unwashed Asses, episode 91, recorded for Friday, March 8th, 2019. Made terrible life choices. Just awful life choices. Typically they involve tacos like today, where I've consumed mass quantities, and now I just want to kind of recline the seat back and pass out for the next couple hours. Which seems like a really enticing idea because I have fuck all to talk about today. Today's the parking lot special, where I sit in a parking lot and watch people drive by as I record, and then I'll walk into a Starbucks, edit it, and get it uploaded. But I don't know that 2 Starbucks visits in one day is setting a good precedent. Definitely not for my waistline. I made the mistake of, after the chiropractor, oh yeah, we'll go over to Starbucks and grab a hot chocolate and some banana bread and have a good breakfast, and I totally forgot it's my designated spot for fucking Wi-Fi while the boy's at school. So Fatty's gonna get fat today, and I don't know how well tacos and vanilla coffee vanilla frappuccino is gonna mix. That's a problem for future Christian. He fucking hates past Christian with a passion. Because to be fair, past and present Christian screw over future Christian quite consistently. Oh, fuck. No, I've got, I don't know, I guess vague inklings of what I wanted to talk about, or, something I've scrapped together. And it comes to mind now and again where I essentially have dreams about it. Back in 2014, both of my grandparents on my mother's side had passed. First it was my Nana, and then several months later it was my grandfather. And then this was on the heels of, me splitting up with my boy's mother. And so 2014 had a lot of good in it, but also had a lot of really bad shit. And I miss them considerably, because when my own parents had split, my grandpa stepped in and provided me kind of like a father figure that I guess I never really had. When I think about it, I don't have a whole lot of memories of my parents actually being together. Maybe I've just blocked a lot of it out, or maybe it's just time, having done what time does, and them splitting up by the time I was 10 didn't help things. I kind of forgot what that was like. So my grandpa had stepped in, and as times get hard, sometimes you got to go back home, and that's what happened with us. We lived with them here and there throughout the years, and even after I'd moved out of the house and went to college, failed at college, came back home, I stayed with them for a while before finally getting out on my own. So they've been gone almost 5 years now, and I still dream about them. And it's one of those things where I'm somewhat aware that it is a dream, and so I try to kind of hold on to it. And I don't want to put any sort of import on it or any extra meaning like, oh yeah, they're visiting me in troubling times, they're here to reassure me. For all we know, that once you die, that's it, nothing else happens, or who knows. But I don't think it's anything past just me missing them, and my subconscious is like, alright, I'll not be a total dickbag tonight and fill your dreams full of snakes and Leatherface. Here, you can see your grandparents again. So it's one of those bittersweet things, and I feel that those are the worst kind of dreams to have, because usually, at least for me, it involves seeing a loved one, somebody that you love ferociously, and for one reason or another, like death or distance or disagreements, you're never ever going to see them again. And so your subconscious brings them back. And at least in my case, I am immeasurably happy. Just it's one of these things where this person is back in my life, and I'm over the moon. And more often than not, I end up sobbing uncontrollably, and just latching on to them. And because despite it being a dream, I realize they're gone and they've been away and they've been missing, and having them back is just, it's overwhelming. And it fills me. I don't consider myself a happy person, and I repeatedly will say I don't know what true happiness feels like. That's what true happiness is I guess getting to be with people that aren't here any longer. And again, that's how it happens for me, is through dreams. But despite that happiness, there's inevitably the point where I wake up and the dream's over and they're gone again. And that's where that bittersweet feeling comes in, because it's to a much lesser degree, losing them all over again. Saying goodbye to people that you don't get to talk to anymore. And I hate those dreams. I hate them. It kind of goes back to the old saying of, it's better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all. And I've tried to apply that in the sense of like breakups, where it wasn't exactly mutual. And in most cases, you'd give anything to get that person back, but you got to try and focus on the positive, what they did give you, and those feelings of happiness that you did have, and try to outweigh them against that feeling of loss and hurt with them no longer being there. And again, it doesn't have to be with like a romantic relationship, but also like with deceased relatives or even a friend. I don't know if it is worth that feeling of knowing you had their love and affection and that time you had together, now that they are gone. I know in like the cases of family, you don't have much choice in the matter. Because there's a good saying that my grandpa had taught me is, you don't have any choice in who you love, but you have a choice in whether or not you like them. I think it describes family perfectly for me. And I don't know. I kind of really got way off tangent with that. So my grandpa would always get the grandkids together. And it was always a big fun thing, because it was me and my sister, and then I had 3 cousins. And it was always super fun and exciting when on the weekends, we're all going to go over to Nana and Grandpa's, because it usually involved one of several things. One, we would stay up late at night and play together, because they had this big, great room where there was a little basketball hoop and workout equipment and a ping pong table, and I'd bring over like my Super Nintendo or Nintendo 64, and there'd be action figures, and they had this, it was a not a big farm, but it was on like an acre and a half of land, and there was like an orchard there, and these grapevines and a big weeping willow, and just all kinds of opportunity to play. And on top of that, it would always be this thing of Nana would go out to the grocery store in the morning. The fuck was the name of that place? I want to say it started with an M, but I don't think that's right. I don't even know if it's open anymore, but it was the next town over, and it was always funny because that town was literally, because they lived on the country, which was on the border between the two towns. So you'd literally drive down their road and take a right, and then you're in the next town. At least that's where the border was. So she would go get donuts, and chocolate long johns were always a thing, or as my grandpa would say, chocolate. He always pronounced things differently. I don't know if it was intentional or he was just so stuck in his ways because he came up from the South. Like Joliet was always Joliet. So no, there would always be donuts and chocolate milk, and he always made sure there was a healthy supply of Yoo-hoo in the house. And then inevitably we would go on what he called adventures, where he'd load up all the grandkids into a Ford Ranger, which was before seatbelt laws were a thing, and we'd go out to like the state park, and we'd go up these rivers and go rock climbing, and just kind of get out there in the world and experience it. And he was always the type of person where he wasn't afraid to talk to people. In fact, he kind of thrived on talking to people, much to the chagrin of my Nana and their kids. It didn't matter who it was, if it was a waitress, a gas station attendant, or even just some fucking Joe Schmo fishing off the side of the dam. He could strike up a conversation and hold it with them. He just had that charisma. And it makes me wonder if he had a genuine interest in these people, or if it was just a way for him to pass the time while the grandkids ran around. Because I hate people. That's like one thing I didn't get from him, among many others, is just he had what appeared to be a genuine love of people, and talking to them and getting their stories. I think that might have been it. It was just the stories. Because he loved reading and he loved telling stories, and that's kind of what got me into it. I shouldn't say kind of, that is what got me into it. Is he always had these old typewriters, and he'd encourage me to kind of plunk away on the keys, and I'd come up with super shitty stories of adventures, encountering dinosaurs or going into these lost temples. And it was very Indiana Jones-ish, but also, Jurassic Park was a huge thing, as was Power Rangers. So I had my genres all kinds of fucked up, but he'd sit there and read, and even, years later, he'd bring them back up, and he'd ask me about these characters that I'd made when I was, a fucking kid. And he would always have these books, and he'd recommend things like, you should read this, and he's what turned me on to the likes of, Louis L'Amour. And I remember shortly before he passed, I had tracked down these books regarding some hunter in India hunting tigers, and he'd been searching for them for ages, and I tracked him down. It's one of those like rare few things we have that makes me feel good, but it's things like that make me kind of question who I am, especially as a father. Am I doing enough when my son comes over to build these kinds of memories and give him a past that he can look back on fondly? Because it's never easy when I get the feeling that he comes over and he just wants to go back to his mom's right away. It makes me feel like, I've failed in my part as a father. But I understand he's only a kid, and he speaks his mind, and I can only encourage that. And it's not always what it seems. People sometimes get wrapped up in what their immediate desire is. I know I have that problem where I will literally put myself on like a death march when it comes to video games. Like I have to obtain this thing, and everything else just kind of falls away. I had that problem yesterday. It was like all right, I got to make sure I get these dishes done. And sure, I ran the dishwasher, but I didn't finish hand washing the extra stuff we had because I spent most of the day playing Destiny, and that was a bad move on my part. So when I do spend time with the boy, and it's mostly consumed with like, oh yeah, we play video games together, and I get it, it's winter, it's hard to do things and go out and do other stuff, but I just want to make sure, that I'm providing to him what was provided to me. Even though my dad wasn't there to give it to me, somebody did kind of step in and light that way. And that I'm doing that for him. And I know it's not like a direct tie, but the thing that sticks out more than any other is it was my second to last real interaction with him before he passed. Because my last one was as he was passing, I went down to stay with my aunt and uncle because they were taking care of him, and I didn't think he was lucid. I didn't think he was with us, and it was very hard to understand him, but as under his breath, he was like, I fucking understand what you're saying. I know what's going on. But no, it was the week before I had talked to him on the phone, because I was trying to make it a habit of talking to him regularly, because we knew his time was coming quick. He just kind of rapidly deteriorated after my Nana had passed. He knew he was gonna go, and he apologized to me, saying he was sorry he was gonna miss my son's birthday because it was gonna be the week after. And you do that thing where it's oh, it's okay, you're gonna make it, you're gonna be fine, and I'll bring my son down and we'll all spend some time together, and he was right, and he was just that kind of person that was not only considerate of total strangers and willing to entertain them and make a new friend, but he was also the kind of person that, it's definitely in his later years, cared more so about family than anything else. And I don't have a super strong sense of family because of how I grew up and then choices that I've made later in life. I feel, more alone than anything else, despite having those building blocks for family. So I guess even though he's gone, he still has a lot to teach me, and maybe that's what those dreams are, is just a reminder that I need to, step outside myself for a bit and take into account everything that I have, and maybe work on appreciating it more and doing more with it, instead of constantly, belittling myself and getting involved with my own projects. I don't know. But segues are hard. That's going to wrap it up. If you want to write the show with anything, really, I don't care. Comments, concerns, criticisms, critiques, complaints, you have the email address. It's theunwashedasses@gmail.com. Again, theunwashedasses@gmail.com. And, of course, help the show grow. Tell a friend. That's all I ask. Let them know they can get wherever they get their podcasts already. Of course, I also put it up on the site and over at YouTube. But that's going to wrap it up. We'll talk to you next time.